Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. This is Cameron coming at you live from Carson, California. We're out here in Los Angeles and looking forward to spending some time with you guys all today. And I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. I see Mauricio. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Or Mike, you guys good? All right, audio is good. Okay, thanks for taking some time to spend with us today. Today's subject is really a challenging one. One of the most complicated forms of bird control is keeping birds out or away from dining tables and outdoor dining areas. So we're going to talk to you today about what that problem looks like and some ways that you can approach it. First of all, probably pretty obvious, where would you rather eat? I love this picture before and after. It just shows how horrible this can be. Obviously this table is not cleaned with any regularity, but this is how bad it can be if birds are allowed to do what they want to do, where they want to do it. So pretty much, why are the birds here? There's one basic reason, and it is food. They're here because we provide food for them, and if you give an animal or even a human being a regular source of food, they're going to keep showing up for it. So it's the number one thing we need: food, water, shelter. I'm not sure it's number one over shelter, but it's pretty high. If you don't have food, you're not going to survive. So what restaurants want, and this is particularly timely right now because with the COVID virus, in a lot of places there is only outdoor dining. Here in California right now, we have no dining, but they just lifted the stay-at-home orders. So starting Friday, we're going to have outdoor restaurants again, which is going to be great. Of course, we've got a big rainstorm coming up, so we'll see how that works out. But anyway, what restaurants want is beautiful outdoor, ambiance. And what they end up getting very often is birds on tables, birds on plates, picking up leftovers, attacking people, flying very closely by someone's head. Again, what they're looking for is, just a really nice place to be. I think we all enjoy eating outdoors on a nice sunny day or a summer evening. But again, what we end up getting is just droppings and birds on umbrellas, birds on counters, birds on ledges above things. The picture on the right is a fast food counter on Santa Monica Pier that had a ledge right above it. And this is what that counter looked like every morning when the guys got to work. So the first thing they had to do was wipe that down. And they used the rag from yesterday when they wiped it down. So they never really got that thing sanitized. They just got it looking better. Again, you've got a lot of things going on where the restaurants are. They've got buildings sometimes around them on 2 or 3 sides, perhaps trees over them, around them. Again, creating just a great ambiance. And what you commonly see is gulls coming in, sparrows, starlings, pigeons. No, we don't discriminate here. We let all the birds come in, and they love it. So a lot of these pictures I've been able to take over the years, just eating somewhere and having a pigeon land on the table next to me, or sparrows crawling on the floor under my chair, or whatever. And you just realize that it's there. I love this photo. This is a girl is literally spraying away this bird with a water sprayer. So that's the solution right there. That's the end of our class. Thanks for coming today. Just kidding. This is still the beginning of the class. I wish it was this easy. I wish that was all there was to it. So the problem is defined as essentially the cost of having this problem. Restaurant owners are not going to be willing to invest in a solution with you if they're not feeling some kind of financial pain. And the way that they're feeling financial pain, and I guarantee most of them are in either 1 or 2 or maybe all of these categories, is the cost of comping a meal, not charging the customer because the birds destroyed the meal or made their experience unhappy. The restaurant manager, of course, wants the customers to come back. In many cases, there may be health inspectors that are, noticing the problem and making some suggestions that you do something about it. There is definitely the risk of disease. You've got, dirty animals they're stepping in their own droppings back at their nesting site. They're standing on tables, standing on plates, standing on food bars, the buffets and things like that. Lots of potential for disease. You have a lot of potential for lost customers, people that just refuse to come back because it's so uncomfortable in places where the birds are very aggressive. You definitely have a time and cost, cleanup time and cost issue. You've got time with your wait staff, perhaps cleaning tables, extra cleaning tables more than they would, cleaning surfaces around, cleaning the floors, cleaning umbrellas, cleaning hand railings, things like that. You may have professional cleaners that come in that you're paying every day to do this kind of cleaning or do extra cleaning. So there's a lot of work. Staffing issues. You may have to have your staff come earlier to do this. You may have staff that complain about working in this situation around the droppings. And this one is real. Your customer may have online reviews that are really hammering him, like Yelp reviews. And I've looked at hotels and with beachfront restaurants in Hawaii and different parts of the country, and you can see the reviews, and oftentimes they mention birds in the restaurant, trying to eat breakfast in the morning and having birds on your table or lunch or dinner. So your mission, if you're going to get out and have customers that have bird control problems around restaurants, is to try and really form a relationship with the manager or owner and find out what's really happening here. If they just say, "I want the birds gone," that conversation can't happen. What can happen, and we'll go through it in the rest of this presentation, is what are they doing exactly that's the problem, and also what are you doing about it? What have you tried so far? What's the result of the birds? Are you giving comping meals? These types of things. And then for them to understand that it's a very complicated situation, which you're going to make clear to them as you go down this path. So the bird problems around restaurants are typically broken down into two categories. The first one is birds physically on tables, chairs, floor, stealing food, contaminating surfaces, and just being a physical pest right around the dining experience. And that's really the most aggressive form of the problem. The other most common problem that restaurants will deal with is birds are standing above the restaurant. They're perhaps on wires, cables, trees, signage, letters, ledges, umbrellas. So birds are above making a mess. So in this case, we're dealing with droppings being positioned in the restaurant somewhere, droppings on tables, on chairs, things like that. So essentially, those are the two problems. Birds there around the people and birds making a mess on things around the people, or even on the people from time to time. So these are the two things that you're going to be mostly trying to figure out what's actually happening here. One of the most common bird calls that we get is people in Texas dealing with grackles. Is there anybody on this call from Texas? I'd love for you to type in the chat box where you are in Texas, or if you're dealing with grackles in trees or on tables in restaurants in other parts of the country. They're pretty common also in Florida. So Odessa, looks like Micah is here from Odessa. Micah, do you tell us if you, lots of grackles in restaurants and trees. Okay, that confirms my theory. So anyway, so let's talk about what the goals might be to deal with this problem. How are we going to measure our success? So the 4 goals, and they're kind of in order of priority. The first one would be to keep all birds entirely away from the area so that there's just no birds in the neighborhood, not just over this table, but there's no birds anywhere near this restaurant. That would be a great goal. That's, may or may not be possible, but if that goal could be accomplished, then everything is solved. There's no more birds on tables, no more birds flying overhead. It's just solved. The next goal would be reduced a little bit in ambition would be to keep birds away from tables and chairs. A restaurant owner would probably be very happy. Yeah, I'm okay if there's birds over there, but I don't want them right here around my tables and chairs. The third goal, which is even less ambitious than 1 and 2, is to stop birds from dropping from above. So to stop them making a mess from whatever they're standing on. And then the last goal, this would be just to reduce the number of birds on tables. So, 1 would be great and 4 might be possible. There's various levels of achievability of these goals in between based on what's happening in the setting, in the area, with your customer, all that kind of stuff. So let's look at the first one. Keep birds away from the area. Is it possible? The answer really is, in most cases, that it is not possible. So customer says, I want all the birds gone from the neighborhood. You can pretty much say right up front, that can't happen. But they can be reduced. The number of birds can be reduced from whatever there is to some other number, lower number. And part of this is going to come down to how do you really count the number of birds that are there? How do you quantify the number of birds? What you may want to do is agree on some certain places where lots of birds are at certain times of the day and take some photographs of that situation. And you can actually sometimes print those out and circle all the birds in the picture and say, there's 41 pigeons on this roof right now. And for you, because your customer, if you do a good job and make that problem turn into 20 birds, your customer might just say, there's 20 birds there. You got to say, yeah, but there used to be 40 birds, and we agreed that getting this number cut in half was going to be success, so we're actually having success. So much of the problem or the solution involving keeping birds out of the area really depends on surrounding structures and other things like food and water as well. What are the birds landing on? Why are they in the area? There's a lot of food here. Is it an area where there's a lot of outdoor restaurants leaving trash out? Is there sometimes there's a landfill a mile away or half a mile away. I mean, who knows? So that's the number one. Keeping birds away from the area is very difficult. The second one, keeping birds away from tables and chairs, it is possible, but a lot of strategies need to be employed and followed. And so, of course, part of this presentation is I'm going to talk to you about things that you can do to actually resolve some of these issues. So, and I will tell you too that a lot of this work is not one-time deal, put up this product or do this thing and walk away. You are probably going to have to be involved with this restaurant facility for quite a while as you deploy your strategies and move forward and hit benchmarks and keep going and keep going. And the minute you stop doing that, their problem's going to probably get bad as it was when it started. So keeping birds away from tables and chairs, it is possible in some settings. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there's a way to keep birds away from tables and chairs in all settings, but in many cases things can be done. Okay, stop birds from dropping from above. Is it possible? In most cases, yes. Bird deterrents can keep birds off almost anything, even trees. What is very hard to protect, though, are thin wires, cables, power lines. Some restaurants put up these light strings that go across, and if birds like landing on those, that's very difficult to bird-proof. But in most cases, you can keep the birds off of things that are above. And lastly, reduce the number of birds on tables. It is possible. Remember, this is the least demanding of all of the options that your customer might want. But even this will take a lot of work. So if you're looking for bird control that's easy, profitable, fast, satisfying, this is not the bird control for you. I just can't stress enough that bird control around open-air restaurants is difficult, challenging, and you really have to do a great job communicating with your customers to be successful. So for the goals to work, this must be a partnership with your customer. You cannot have a customer that just demands that you get this problem solved. You need to be very clear that you're going to work very hard on this in unison with them, holding hands with your customer. This is a team effort, and their staff is probably going to be more involved in this solution than your staff. So that's a big part of what you have to get across to your customer. You got to communicate regularly. You need to understand what they want. Really important that you continue to talk about their goals. And most important is to underpromise and overperform. So there's nothing worse than saying, I'll get rid of all these birds and then not getting rid of all these birds. You have to just talk about reducing the number of complaints from customers, reducing the number of refunded meals that you're giving to unhappy customers. Measure things like that. That's where you're going to be successful. So strategies, what do you do about this? How do you solve these problems, or what do you do? First of all, a critical element is to have a complete site survey. So what you might want to do is get the Google satellite photo of the building and maybe a quarter mile around it so that you can see where the building is, where the restaurant is, and what's around it in terms of rivers and lakes and things like that, bodies of water. What are food sources? What other buildings in the neighborhood, in the area, have bird problems? Is this a shopping mall? Is this a food court? Is it a strip mall? Just what's going on in the area and where do you see bird activity already happening? The nice thing about this is you may be able to learn a lot and then go and present a bird solution to another building in the area because you see what's happening to them and you can explain to them why that's happening. So it's important to understand. So is there food nearby? Is there a landfill? Oh, that's a typo. That should say landfill, not landfull. Is there a landfill nearby? Is there a food processing facility? Is there waste? A lot of businesses have a lot of food waste out back that attracts the birds. What other birds are in the area? And problems on neighboring buildings, as I said. So you really need to understand the area really well to have any chance of being successful with this mission. Okay, so the mission was number one goal was to reduce birds in the area. The way that can be accomplished is by reducing their food. So depending, if you've got a landfill nearby that's full of food waste, obviously that's very difficult. But if you've got birds eating out of open trash bins and things like that, well, you can put lids on trash to stop the birds having that food source. The tables at restaurants can be cleaned up faster by a more attentive waitstaff. So I see restaurants outdoors where the people get up and leave, and before they've even got 5 feet away from their table, their plates are being picked up and taken away by an attentive waitstaff. I've also been to restaurants where you see that nobody clears that plate or that tray for half an hour, and 10 birds just have the feast of their life in front of all the other tables, and everybody notices that, believe me. So cleaning up as fast as possible. Trash management, I mentioned, that's an obvious one. This is not just in the area of the restaurant, but out back, the waste, the neighbors, things like that. And also water. Birds need to drink a lot of water every day. They need water more than they need food. And so, where are they drinking from? Is there a food source nearby, like a fountain that can be addressed, or puddles, or a lake out back or something, which probably can't be addressed, but just to know what's going on. And if you can reduce the amount of water that they have access to, that's going to help a lot. You want to bird-proof their favorite spots. When you see birds spending time on a certain ledge or sign letters or roof peak or whatever the case, you want to bird-proof those. You want to look at visual repellents like the eagle eye, which I'll show you a little more in depth. So having visual things going on that are bothering the birds, irritating them, scaring them, making them not feel comfortable there. You might consider ovocontrol, which is birth control for pigeons primarily. I think there's also a sparrow version now, but this is a birth control that actually causes the eggs to not hatch, and it reduces bird populations over time. And then there's trapping, which is reducing bird populations as you do the trapping. So we'll talk some about that as well. So these are things you can do to reduce birds in the area. And here you see some common situations, birds having a lot of food opportunities here around these waste receptacles. Okay, so the next goal, the next level down, was to keep birds away from tables and chairs. How do you do this? possibly you can install bird netting over the dining areas and basically box off the eating zone so the birds can't get in. And again, like I said, the last one, reducing food for the birds, cleaning up faster, trash management, reducing water sources. Also putting up "Do not feed the birds" sign and really, really hammering it home, trying to enforce that with your customer. Please don't feed the birds. It just attracts them in. Again, bird-proof their favorite spots and introduce visual repellents like the eagle eye. This is how you can keep birds away from tables and chairs. So there's a "Do not feed the bird" sign at a outdoor food court. I was at this a few weeks ago. There's no tables out there because people are not presently allowed to eat there. And it was also raining, but as you can see, "Do not feed the birds," and that's going to help. People are going to see it. Notice it's not a little sign. It's actually quite legible and quite clear, and they were all over this little area. So sometimes they even have a little placard on tables asking you not to feed the birds. Okay, so here's a restaurant that I have personal experience with, and I'd say from a negative standpoint, this was eating on this deck. This is a restaurant in Northern California, and it is basically tables and chairs with umbrellas out on a pier, and where these red lines are were ledges literally teeming with seagulls. So the seagulls are standing on all of these raised up areas and just waiting for opportunities. So the minute a family would get up and leave a table, the seagulls would just beeline right for that table. They'd fly between those umbrellas, they'd fly under the umbrellas, and they'd make a beeline and they'd get their food. And because they're big with about a 2-foot wingspan, people get hit in the head as the wings go by. So this isn't just seeing birds, coming near your table or landing on your table. This is people getting hit by birds and really being very, very irritated by that. So the solution here would be to the first solution would be to protect all the areas, because the birds cannot stay in flight hour after hour waiting for food opportunities. They stand on a platform and they observe. And they're able to stand all around this restaurant and observe and be there immediately when their opportunity presents itself. So the first thing to do would be to protect these ledges with electric shock, bird shock, or maybe spikes or some repellent so the birds cannot stand there. And that will be a huge first step to getting rid of the birds in this situation. So the third level goal was to stop birds from dropping from above. And this is really normal bird control. This is the kind of things we talk about most commonly, is just keeping birds off of things like ledges, signs, trees. So you want to install the bird deterrents on these surfaces. You want to install them in the trees, or maybe net the tree, or reduce birds in the area whatever way you can by implementing these and other strategies that we've talked about and will continue to talk about here. So this is quite an easy one, keeping the birds from dropping from above. And here you see grackles or starlings, I think, in a tree above a restaurant. You see the tree is quite dirty on those limbs. And there's some more birds in trees. And just as an example, here's a way to keep birds from being above tables. These guys are installing bird shock flex track onto these steel beams, and underneath is an area that was a dining outdoor food court at a hospital, but because there were so many birds on these beams of these narrow little ledges, they couldn't use it anymore. They actually gave up using that whole food court there for tables and chairs. After the bird shock here was installed in every single one of these, they got their area back and they were basically 100% back in business using that courtyard area. Nice success story. So to reduce the number of birds on tables, you're essentially going to be trying everything that we've mentioned already with the food and the water and the cleaning up quickly and the bird repellents on the surfaces and harassment and all kinds of things. So that's what you have to do. Everything is on the table here, except hopefully the birds. No pun intended. Sorry about that. Bad joke. Okay, so we mentioned the eagle eye. The eagle eye is a visual bird repeller, and if you can't tell on that picture, the pyramid itself, the silver part at the top, is about 7 or 8 inches tall. So it's about the size of a volleyball, for perhaps, or a little bit smaller than that. And it rotates around, and it has different angles on it, and it's very shiny, chromed. It's a chrome plastic, and it rotates around, and it creates a visual sort of flashing pattern that the birds do not like. And so these are positioned around different places, around a pool like this, or outdoor dining, and they can be very effective if they're positioned properly. So I'll show you a little bit more about eagle eyes here. So this is at the Inner Harbor in Baltimore, and what this is a large building that has several restaurants in it, and the red triangles are where we recommended positioning eagle eyes. So we will do this for you. So if you give us an address that you want to consider an eagle eye project, we'll actually get a satellite photograph of that site, and we'll position eagle eyes in it for you. A combination of eagle eyes that spin on motors like the one you just saw, or ones that spin in the breeze. So the net results of these eagle eyes being mounted on this building, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there it looks like 8 of them there. They emptied out the tables. These were successful. These were very successful. The restaurants reported a dramatic reduction in outdoor bird activity around these outdoor tables that you can see there on the right and at the bottom of the photo. So there are things that can be done. This is a great tool, and you should definitely consider this. Even if you don't consider a specific solution, please do call us and tell us what's going on, and we'll go through our list of things that we can recommend that will help you with this problem. And here's another, again, we just got a photo of this hotel that had all these bird problems around the pool and outdoor dining there, and we recommended these 5 eagle eye positions to be put up. I don't know if these eagle eyes ever were put up in this case. I just know this is where we would recommend to put them, and you can see that you know, they would provide quite a bit of coverage for this solution. So here's the problem. This is a pier, at the end of a pier in California, with very heavy bird activity on the roof, and the birds were spending a lot of time up there and then diving down to tables down below at the cafe. And what was done to solve this was the roof was pressure washed, made to look brand new, and then our optical gel dishes were placed on the roof. If you've seen our optical gel training class, you saw a video of this job in there. And everything that I mentioned here today, we do have in-depth training on these. We have an in-depth optical gel class. We have a training on visual repellents. We have several different training classes. So be sure and check back on our website, or drop us a note if you're looking for a specific training class that we can let you know about. Many of our past training classes we videotape and we record them, and we make those available on our YouTube channel as well. So you may be able to go and watch an optical gel training class or something else.
There should be one on there.
There is one on there, according to Zach. Yes. Thank you, Zach. So anyway, in this case, because the birds stopped being on that roof, they dramatically reduced the number of birds that were coming to the tables and jumping down. So this was a big success. Another way to really get 100% success in restaurants is to enclose the dining area with our stealth net. And I don't know if you can see this, but right over that guy's head, the blue sky behind the guy in the picture, there is a grid of netting. So what you're seeing here is a net that is in the front of this dining area that goes from top to ground all the way around this, so birds literally cannot enter this area. So above there, over his head, is a structure that looks like this. So the netting, if you look over there on the side, starts on the roof above that light and goes over the wooden structure, and then it goes down, straight down to the edge of the, there's a rain gutter there or something. And all these tables, I'm going to go back, all these tables are inside this netted area. There's no way for a bird to fly inside of, even those umbrellas are inside the netted bird-free zone. So this is, if your customer says, is there a way to keep all the birds away from my tables? The answer is yes. You just have to put up netting. So I actually went down to Aruba, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and did some bird training to some pest control company down there. And every restaurant they took me to at the beaches, that's why we went, was that they had birds on tables at every single restaurant. And this pest control guy in Aruba was able to convince 1 or 2 of these restaurants to allow them to build netting around the restaurants. And so you can see here these 2 photos. The picture on the left, that's netted. I don't know if you can see the netting on whatever screen you're on. The picture on the right shows the netting in each panel. So they don't interfere with the breeze whatsoever. The air still moves nicely through. They were very clever. They did, up above overhead. They attached the netting on cables to the roof, to the ceiling. And here is what looks like sitting inside this restaurant, looking out. Is what you see is you just see the ocean. You just get used to it. You don't even notice the netting after a while. But what you do notice is no birds. This restaurant was giving away so much free food, thousands and thousands of dollars a month. It was killing them. And that ended immediately when this netting went up. And they only had customers commenting that this is so nice in here now. I remember having birds in here last time I was here, and now there's no birds. And nobody complains about the netting. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Speaking of netting, people do net trees. This is a very drastic solution, but trees can be netted. A lot of times, again, this is very common in Texas, where there's a lot of grackles and a lot of birds in trees. Sometimes there'll be a hospital that has 10 trees like this in a row, and in some places, unfortunately, they cut the trees down. The bird problem is so bad, they cut the trees down. In this case, they've netted this tree, and there are other solutions we can offer, which you'll see now. So we have a product called Tree Shock. This is a tubular, it's basically a rubber hose, flexible rubber hose, and it has 2 wires wrapped around it. And it's sort of like our bird shock, which gives the birds a jolt, a shock on their feet. So this is mounted to the top of limbs, and because it's flexible, you can curve it around up and down and make sure you get all the top surfaces of the limbs. And when the birds land on it, they get a shock, and they quickly learn to avoid that area. It's tree colored. It's brown like the tree. So if you do a good job with this, you don't really notice the product. You can use our optical gel in trees. It works quite well, especially on large limbs like you see here. Glue it on with some silicone, doesn't hurt the tree. Make sure you get the spacing right, and you'll have success with almost every bird species. If you get enough optical gel in the tree, you will stop the birds landing on the limbs that it's mounted on. That won't stop them landing on the limb above or next to it, but you can protect limb by limb with the optical gel. So other surfaces that you can protect, or other products that you can use to protect surfaces that we carry, are the bird flight spikes. You see them there on a Starbucks sign, so they can be easily positioned on anything above, ledges around the outdoor dining, ledges above, sign letters, whatever the case. Bird flight spikes is a great solution. We also have DuraSpike, which I don't think we have a slide for that, but that's an all stainless steel metal base and metal spike. The bird flight has a polycarbonate base and stainless steel spikes. So that's a great, easy solution. On the right, you see that white surface. The angled piece at the top is our bird slide that's been painted white. So that used to be a perching site for birds, and the installer did a really nice job. They mitered the corners and put that up there, and then painted it white to match. And That's a restaurant, something blue, something diner, and they had tables and chairs out there, and this just greatly reduced the number of birds in the area. So you can use the bird coil to keep birds off of things, in this case this Pizza Hut sign. You can use our daddy long legs to keep birds off of not only canopies like this, but umbrellas, roofs, large flat surfaces. You can use the bird shock as demonstrated here to keep the bird shock goes on ledges, goes on sign letters, goes on lots of different things. So that's easy to install and very effective. The bird shock's nice like the tree shock because it actually conditions the birds not to return. With the spike they might see it and try and figure out a different place to go, but the bird shock, they're caused some pain, short-term pain, which they remember and do not want to repeat. Okay, there's ovo control. I mentioned that earlier. Ovo control is small pellets of like a kibble, like a cat kibble. And this feeder that you see here, you might recognize this if you're a hunter. These are automated feeders that spread food out on a timed basis. So what this does is it sprays out at a set time every morning a certain amount of feed, scatters on the roof. The birds become conditioned to arrive at the right time. They usually show up 5 or 10 minutes early, and they're waiting for this thing to spin out. That's how intelligent they are. And it puts out the ovo control, which has an active ingredient, has a drug in it called nicarbazine. And what that does is it interferes with the hatchability of the eggs. So it doesn't affect the birds at all. It's completely reversible. But a bird that's eating ovo control, they have to eat it for about 2 weeks. If they eat ovo control for 2 weeks, a small dose every morning, and then after that they lay an egg, that egg will not hatch. And so what happens is birds keep laying eggs, eggs continue to not hatch, and the population crashes because pigeons have a life expectancy out there of a couple years, and so quickly over a year, in the first year the population will reduce by about 50%. So if you want to have faster results using ovo control, what you can do is trap first. Go out and do an aggressive trapping program and then start feeding the birds ovo control. And the smaller number of birds that are there after trapping will become an even smaller number of birds within a year. So it's not immediate reduction. There are very few ways to get birds completely out of an area, but this is a great tool. If you just do trapping, only trapping, birds will reproduce and they'll speed up the reproduction because of the void they're creating, and more eggs are laid, more birds are hatched, and basically what you get into is the business of harvesting birds, and that's not good. So a more humane approach is to reduce the number of birds and employ something like ovo control to reduce so they don't breed as fast as they used to. Many of you may have been to restaurants by lakes and beaches and things where you see wires overhead. This is called grid wire, and this is for marine birds only. This only is effective against seagulls and pelicans and large birds that have a hard time navigating through tight spaces. If you put this up for pigeons or sparrows or whatever, they're literally going to just fly right through it and have fun with these wires. Sparrows may even stand on these wires, but this is a very effective way to get larger birds from flying inside of an area like an open food restaurant. Grid wire is also used on roofs of buildings. So if you've got a large warehouse or a big box store that has a lot of seagulls and things like that on the roof, you can raise up poles and put wires across, and we can help you with the patterns and the dimensions, and you can stop birds from landing on an entire large flat roof with the grid wire system. So trapping, referenced it a minute ago. There's a one of our large pigeon traps on the left. We have sparrow traps, and we offer traps with shade and food and water. So this is the tool, but trapping has a lot of pros and cons. The cons are that it's very visible. You have customers that may see the traps. Sometimes they may actually damage the traps or release the birds. you really have to euthanize the birds that are trapped. It's very hard to relocate them because they'll just fly back to where they came from. So it's quite labor intensive. You have to check the traps every day. The birds are really not supposed to be left in there long term without food and water. That's against the law. That's why the trap on the right has the shade on the top and food and water in it, so you can leave the birds in there for a couple days, so long as they continue to have food and water. You need to check that. So the trap in the middle is our sparrow trap door. That catches sparrows, and they fall inside the trap below, and then they're used as a lure to draw other sparrows in. So trapping is a very big subject matter. We have quite a bit of information about it on our website, in our catalog, so check that out. Let's see, I already told you all that. I forgot I had this slide coming. So short-term solution, humane, comply with local regulations, absolutely. Communicate with your customer, make sure they sign off that you're able to do this. You don't want to get in trouble and then have them say, I didn't know they were going to trap. You gotta, it's going to be part of your proposal that they sign off and approve. So I mentioned this earlier. A big part of this is working with your customer and managing their expectations. So you need to take an integrated approach, which is a lot of things we've talked about, reduction of food and water and trapping and installing of bird deterrents and things like that. Birds are always going to be around. It's nature. You can't get around that. So you have to basically share a lot of this with your customer, a lot of your plans, how they're going to help. It's hard to catch birds, as I said. Mentioned this earlier. The customer needs to become your partner, and they need to tell you what they see and how they can help. They have to help. And you must always explain to your customer what you're up to so that they know that you're their teammate, that you're sharing your strategy, that you're sharing your schedule, you're sharing your successes, your challenges. Again, if they can clean up the food quickly, that's a huge part of this right off the bat. Another part of this, which we haven't referenced too much, it's obviously a huge part of bird control, is the cleaning. This may be part of the service you're offering. If it accumulates heavily, like in this photo, a big part of your job is going to be getting out there and cleaning this up, unless they agree to do it, but make sure they do it properly. You want to use, in our optical gel training, we recommend the use of our Dissolve It live enzyme to kill the bacteria and soften up the droppings, and then to treat it with a mixture of bleach and water. So that's giving you a nice sanitized site that looks attractive, smells good, and is going to be less attractive to the birds because they're usually attracted by their own scent, by their own pheromones. For cleaning, it's best to if you've done a lot of cleaning, you give a good estimate for how much it's going to cost. That's okay. But you might want to charge by the hour if it's a challenging one, if you don't know how it's going to go or how long it's going to take to do the work. It can be difficult charging for this kind of work. Putting up 100 feet of spike on a ledge, yes, you know how to do the math on that. It's the spike, it's labor, material, maybe cleanup, and it's pretty straightforward. But other parts of this, trapping and trying to clean up trash and things like that, it may be that you charge for materials, charge for your time. Maybe you have a monthly charge for this service. There's a lot of ways that you can do this, and we're happy to give you some thoughts on that as well. The bottom point there, as I said, normal charging for spikes and bird shock, things like that. But you just want to be open with your customer. Like, I don't know how long this is going to take. I'm going to be working at this. It's going to take me time. We're going to share our successes and our failures with you. And if we don't have any success, you can fire me and I'll leave. But I think you'll have some success. Your customer should feel some improvement from your efforts, put it that way. So we have four of us here that you can email. Just call 800-NO-BIRDS or hit birdbarrier.com. Or there's email addresses there for Zach. We should make those bigger for the future. Those are a little bit small, but Michael.Gallion, Ray Olszewski, Tony Jeton, me, I'm Cameron.Riddell. Or just pick up the phone and dial 1-800-NO-BIRDS, and we'd be happy to talk with you. We do have some upcoming classes. Tomorrow at 11 is access equipment. If you're not signed up for that, you go to birdberry.com and hit the training. Sign up for that. We got solar panel protection on Thursday at 11. Next week we got intro to bird control. We've got, feel free to take a picture of this page if you guys want to while it's up on the screen. Optical gel is Wednesday at 10, optical gel and Optica. And next Thursday is ledge products. So we're going to open up for some questions now. I'll leave this up on the screen if you guys want to write it down. I actually see that Mauricio has a question about cleaning the eagle eyes. So there's actually a cleaning agent now that comes with eagle eyes. It's a small bottle of liquid that you apply. And it's a great question. If the eagle eye is not kept shiny, it's not going to be as effective over time. The dirtier they get and the dingier they get, you're going to have problems. It won't be as effective against the birds as if it's shiny and clean. So there is an eagle eye cleaner that comes in it, and I believe it's in our catalog as well, which I have in front of me. Eagle eye, page 44. Page 45, yes, Eagle Eye Shine it's called. So I don't know if you can see this from there. It's a little bottle.
You took it up just a bit. Yeah, perfect right there.
There's the Eagle Eye Shine on the right. And it's essentially designed to maximize the unit's reflective properties from oxidation and degradation. So we can follow up and give you more information on that if you like. So are we doing only typed questions, Zach, or can people ask questions?
People ask questions.
Okay, if anyone has any questions, feel free to type them in or just speak out loud.
You're good now. Sorry.
I'm good. Is anybody speaking?
No, we're good. Doesn't sound like it.
All right, guys, we have, we'll stay live for another, I don't know, 10, 20 seconds here. Now's your last chance to ask any questions.
Sounds like we're good.
Everybody, thank you so much. I hope this was informative. We just put this presentation together last week and had a lot of fun with it. So hope you guys learned something here and it can help you in the field. Go out and make some money and make your customers happy. Have a great week, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks.